Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and in 2012, a powerful documentary film was released in Israel, chronicling the history of Israel's highly respected internal security service, the Shin Bet, known in Hebrew as Shabak. The film, which was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature, was called Gatekeepers, referring to those who direct the activities and operations of the Shin Bet. Gatekeepers presented in-depth interviews with 6 Shin Bet directors who led Shabak from 1980 to 2011, each of whom faced unique circumstances and had their own special stories. Avraham Shalom, Carmi Gilon, Ami Ayalon, Avi Dichter, Yuval Diskin, and the director of the Shin Bet during the First Intifada, Yaakov Peri, from 1988 to 1994. From the moment I saw the film Gatekeepers, which I found to be a very disturbing film, as is true with all political documentaries, I couldn't tell how much was objective truth or subjective ideology. I've wanted to speak with at least one of the directors of the Shin Bet profiled in Gatekeepers. On this edition of L'Chaim, I get my wish. It's my great honor to introduce to you Yaakov Peri, who served in the Shin Bet for almost 30 years, the last 6 of which was as Shabak's director, before he resigned in 1995 and went on to enter the business world. In 2013, Yaakov became a member of the Knesset and served as Minister of Science, Technology, and Space. Yaakov Peri remained in the Knesset till his resignation in February of 2018. And currently, Yaakov Peri is in the United States on behalf of the New State Solution, which you've seen profiled here on JBS. Yaakov, I can't tell you what this means to me. I revere the work you've done. You have made an incomparable contribution, not simply to the state of Israel, but to the Jewish people. It is wonderful to have you sitting with me here on L'Chaim.
It's my honor.
Toda rabah. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mark, for having me here.
I've only just met you, but I have to tell you, you seem like a very sweet, gentle man. And you know the image of Shin Bet and the Shabak and Shin Bet is that, well, if you lead intelligence security services in Israel, you've got to be a hard, sort of scary guy. Were you back in the 1980s and 90s? Were you scary?
No, I have never been scary.
Okay, but wait, even for you, isn't it an interesting observation that you, and it's not only true of you, but people who are in the Israeli security business are not necessarily scary people.
No, I would say that the majority, even all of them, are not scaring. We are people who are run or pushed by motivation to help Israel, to keep Israel's survival, to keep Israel, what we are calling Am Israel Chai. We are living and working. And most of us are nice, cute, and liberal people.
It is amazing. We're going to talk about all of that, especially the liberal part in a minute.
Yeah.
First of all, I need to know, you were the first Shabak head to be a Sabra, a native Israeli. You were born.
Absolutely.
So where were you born?
I was born in near Rishon LeZion, in 1944, February.
Just before the state becomes.
Yeah,
Right.
4 years before
Yes.
Israel was founded.
Yes.
To a very poor family. I was a lone child. My father was a builder, constructor.
Where was he from?
Poland.
Poland?
My parents came to Israel in 1936 or 7,
Yes.
before the Holocaust. All their family was, of course,
Was lost?
was lost in the Holocaust.
I'm so sorry.
And I was raised in Rishon LeZion, and 2 years after Rishon LeZion, we immigrated, we relocated to Netanya. And I was
I'm sorry.
born.
What do you mean relocated?
My father was working for the British Army.
No kidding.
Yeah, at that time.
What was he doing?
A constructor,
Uh-huh.
a crane constructor. After he lost his job in Rishon, my father tried to find another jobs, and he found in Netanya, and we were living in Netanya since my parents, all their lives, and
Is that where you grew up?
Yes, I grew up. I was educated, and I was very happy in a small neighborhood, not far from the center of the city, a small city.
Okay. Your parents chose to come to Palestine. This is pre-state Palestine.
Yeah.
Did they ever discuss with you why? They made the choice before things got terrible, and they chose Palestine, not the United States or Canada. Why?
My father and mother were activists in Yasser, I would say, organizations that were Zionists in Poland. And my mother came as a group who came to work in agriculture in Israel.
What was her name?
Malka.
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 I love the name Malka.
Yeah. Queen.
Yes.
And my father was also a member of a Jewish organization, and they left for Israel, hoping that their family will follow them, brothers, sisters, parents, etc. It didn't come out.
They were fairly young, I assume.
Very young. They were
I'm sorry, your father's name again?
Eliezer.
Eliezer. So you have Malka and Eliezer. Okay. And they come as young people, and they're hoping that they will lead the family there.
Right.
Sadly, tragically, the family does not make it.
Except a brother and a sister of my mother who immigrated to the States.
Aha.
And then lately, when they were much older, they came to
They made
Israel.
Aliyah?
They made Aliyah.
That is fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of Jewish home did you grow up in? And the reason why it's interesting is there were many of the early Chalutzim who come to Israel as Zionist pioneers to work in the fields. They came, and while they had a rich Jewish background themselves, they were not interested in Judaism as such.
Right.
What kind of home did you have when you grew up?
My mother came from a very cultural home. My uncle was a very famous, at that time, writer by the name of Druzhanov. And he wrote with Nachman Bialik the book of jokes, or how I call it, witzes. I don't know how to translate it to English. And she came from a very, very close, intimate cultural family. My father came...
So she was a culturally secular Jew.
Very. And
but she had a strong Jewish identity.
Very Jewish, Jewish. And I would define my home as a secular, traditional home.
Yes.
My father used to go every holiday to the synagogue, followed by me. He used to take me. And I grew in, not, I would say, a very religious.
You didn't have an observant home.
No.
You did not have. Was there Shabbat or no? His kind of Shabbat.
Yeah.
Yes.
But but not every Shabbat.
Yes.
We were more secular, but very, very Jewish rooted.
Yes.
If I may, and Zionist rooted.
And is that what was imparted to you? You grew up the same way?
Very much.
Okay.
Very much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
I'm going to skip for one moment, then we'll come back.
Please.
You have your own family?
Of course.
Of course.
I am married to a lovely
Her name?
woman, Osnat.
Osnat. How did you meet her?
I met her while I was in business in the
Is she a Sabra?
No. Yeah, she is a Sabra,
Yeah.
but the family origin is from Iraq, Iraqi Jews who immigrated to Israel. Yes, Faradim in 1950.
Very lovely.
Yeah, and
You have children?
I have 3 children.
Mazal Tov.
I have 8 grandchildren,
Mazal Tov.
and we are a happy family.
I am thrilled for you. The reason I jump is I want to know how you raised your children. How did you and your wife,
Yeah.
given what you described about your parents and their cultural, very strong Jewish identity, but they did not need Judaism as American Jews know it, what do you choose to do?
Well, I followed the
Model of your parents?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I have to stress that for 30 years, I wasn't very much at home. So all the family duties were upon on the shoulder of my wife.
Is this because of Shabbat?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. I have been at home rarely, as to say, and the whole education, the whole taking care was upon the shoulder of my wife.
Your wife. Did she do a good job?
A very good job.
I'm sure she did. Okay, now we come back.
Yeah.
Okay. You have a typical Israeli childhood. You grow up. You go to high school. After high school, you have to go into the idea. Oh, by the way, I should ask you. You're 4 years old when the State of Israel is created.
Yeah.
Do you have, as a 4-year-old, any memories of that period?
Of course, I have a lot of them.
What was it like for you? What was it like for your parents and for you?
I remember, first of all, the British Army. There was in Netanya a camp near our house, and I still remember as a small child when they came to search for weapons of the underground, the Jewish underground at that time, in my bed. I still remember it. I mean, not very brightly.
But it's there.
Yeah, it's there. And I remember...
Was that scary, do you remember? Was it scary?
I cannot tell you because I was really small.
You were too young to be scared.
Yeah. But I remember young Israel. I remember Israel before the foundation of the state. And it strikes to me the way that we lived, it was so very simple and very ideological.
Pure in a way.
Pure. If I compare it to
today,
yes, it was another story.
Do you have any idea, did your parents hate the British?
I didn't think that they hate them, but they thought and they felt that it's a strangers. They are strangers. They are not. They wanted them to go out, and I remember the days that the British left. The British men that ended.
What was that like?
It was like a big, huge holiday.
And then Ben-Gurion reads the Declaration of Independence of the modern State of Israel. And, by the way, on the one hand, your parents, and to the extent to which you as a very small child, celebrated. And, we've all seen the iconic pictures of Horror being dancing in the street.
Yeah.
But, Ben-Gurion goes home and writes this entry in his diary. He knows that the next day there's going to be an attack from 4, 6, 7 Arab states. And by the way, the Gush Etzion bloc, the day before, had already been subject to a massacre. You were at war. Israel was already at war even before the declaration. And people should understand that. It didn't really happen the day after. At the same time, the invasion begins the day after.
Right. And I remember my youth.
Yes.
My young, I would say years, as hiding in shelters, bombing. My father, of course, was recruited to the army, to the new Israeli army, and
He fought?
yeah, he fought in Latrun. He fought in
He fought at Latrun yet?
Latrun. Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. So and he came back luckily safe.
He was not injured seriously?
No.
Well, he was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very happy.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if you're now 4, you're 5. The war goes on until 1949.
Fine. Yeah.
And when you say, you had to hide in shelters, on the one hand, a child might see it as an adventure and not as something frightening. Do you remember again? Did you live in fear, or it was just that was your life?
I wouldn't say that we lived in fear. The atmosphere was not as we are in such a difficult and a problematic war. The feel was that we are living into a new adventure of a newborn state, and you could feel it even as a small child. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I wasn't afraid, and I didn't remember even if my mother or our friends around us were afraid. It was, of course, tension and a war, but
all right.
Not.
Most of the chalutzim who come, like your parents, align themselves with labor.
Yeah.
And they are not fans of Menachem Begin. And they're fans more of Ben-Gurion and Rabin and the Haganah.
Well, in my case, I have to surprise you.
Yes.
My mother was a Ben-Gurion follower. She was a labor guy.
No.
And my father was a Menachem Begin follower.
I'm sorry, your mother was?
A labor follower.
So she was not a Ben-Gurion. She was Ben-Gurion.
Ben-Gurion. And
your
my father was a Begin follower.
You came from a mixed marriage.
Yeah, in a way. And I remember, till now, whenever there were, the days or the periods before elections, what happened in the house, and she didn't surrender, and he didn't surrender for years. And when I was born, Menachem Begin came to my birth.
No.
Yeah. And when I was appointed to be director of the Shin Bet, I showed Menachem Begin the picture that he signed of my birth.
Wow.
It was a very, it was to my sorrow, my father at that time was very ill and he didn't.
Yes.
So, yeah. But my mother was proud to say that her husband was a Menachem Begin follower, etc.
All of a sudden it becomes kosher.
Yeah, okay.
So he was at your Brit Milah,
yeah,
and you get to show him a picture.
Yeah.
Okay. So the issue at the time was whether people sided with the Irgun. The Stern Gang was a more severe element of it, but the Irgun took the position under Begin, which came out of Jabotinsky.
Right.
That basically this is our land, and the British are supposed to
live,
be here as administrators, and then get up and leave, and they're not leaving, and we are at war.
Yeah.
Okay. And Begin says during World War II, we will act as if we are at war with the Nazis and we're allies of the British, but at the same time, we're at war with the British.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense of whether your father, at least, empathized and was sympathetic to that position?
I think that my father, yes. My mother had other views, but my father was a blind follower of Mr. Begin.
He wasn't in the Irgun?
No,
Okay.
He wasn't in the Irgun.
And one last question in this area. You understand this now, not as a child, but as you look back at history. We've talked often on JBS about the Altalena.
Yeah.
The Altalena affair was an issue where Menachem Begin was trying to bring arms into the infant state of Israel to fight the Arabs in the War of Independence.
Absolutely.
And David Ben-Gurion was worried that the arms were being brought in for a coup against the new government. And he has Yitzhak Rabin sink the Altalena off the shore.
Yeah, in Tel Aviv.
Begin is in Tel Aviv.
Of Tel Aviv,
right.
yeah.
Begin is on the boat when it happens. They have to throw him off the boat. As you look back on it, I'm not asking you as a 4 or 5-year-old. What's your assessment of that moment of early Israeli history?
It's one of the biggest crises, or I would say
failures?
events that accompanied the state of Israel till 10, 20 years ago. Every discussion in the Knesset between the Labour Party and the Likud Party. Now it's the Likud, it used to be Cheirut. Altalena was brought up. And we, as children, didn't feel it because we were small children. But later, it's a kind of a foggy or disturbed issue on the history of Israel. And people are often asked, what have you have done if you have been that. To be true, I cannot tell you because it was a very, very crisis situation, and usually people supported the Begin approach, but knowing very well later, of course, Yitzhak Rabin, I understand that Yitzhak used his logic and not his emotions, dealing with his...
Yitzhak Rabin followed an order.
Yeah, but he was very logical and very obedient, and he didn't put any politics, if I may say, in these occurrences, but it's a very, very well-known and reminds a crisis in the history of Israel.
Do you have any sense, again, you're looking back, but you've also been a historian of sorts, so as you look back, do you think, assuming everybody, by the way, had the best intentions, was Ben-Gurion right or wrong about why Begin was bringing those arms in? Begin says, I was never going to use them against the government. My only argument was I wanted my Irgun forces to be allocated a certain proportion of the arms. But I wasn't doing this as a palace coup. As you look back on it.
Yeah, look, Mark, I cannot put myself really as a judge. And I'm not doing it because I'm bound or something. I can understand Begin's logic, and I can understand Ben-Gurion's.
Because I'm only asking, do you think Ben-Gurion's fear was justified?
Yeah. I think that Ben-Gurion made tremendous steps in order, and if I would have to be a judge, I would verdict in favor of Ben-Gurion.
Interesting. Yeah. So you believe Begin was bringing the arms in to do a palace coup?
You can suspect him.
All right.
You can suspect.
All right. I disagree, but I respect highly your position. Yeah. Okay. Now we come back again to you. You graduate high school, and there is this responsibility to join what's now the new IDF.
And here I have a very interesting story because I didn't serve in the army. They found something bad in my heart, which wasn't true later. And they said, you are not accepted to the army, you are free. And
were you happy or sad?
I was very sad. I wrote a letter.
You were very
sad.
Sad. But you understand, American Jews might think you'd be very happy.
No, they are wrong.
Why were you sad?
Because I wanted to serve my country. So I wrote a letter to Ben-Gurion. And I was answered that they are going to recheck. And I said, thank you very much. I'll go to study in university, and then I'll serve my country in the way that I think is right. And that's what happened. I went to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I studied the Middle Eastern studies, and I joined the Shabak. And instead of serving in the army for 3 years or 2 years at that time, I served 30 years or 35 years in the Shirut HaBitachon HaKlali, in the Shabak. Yeah.
I want people to understand. Your studies at Hebrew University gave you a great understanding of Arabic. You became fluent in Arabic and knowledgeable in Arabic.
Very much.
Okay.
Religion, tradition, etc. Islam.
Take one moment here for me.
Yeah, please.
One of the things that seems to be true and is a little surprising is that Arabic is not something that's taught to Israelis on a routine basis.
A huge, huge, huge mistake. We should put the Arabic language and the Arabic tradition or culture as obligatory. Not only because of the fact that 20% of the population of Israel are Arabs, because we are surrounded by more than 400 million Arabs, that the majority, because I'm making it mild, the majority doesn't accept the right of Israel to exist. You should understand it. You should understand the mentality. And then it's much easier. If you have to fight, fight them. If you have to compete, compete them. If you have to, whatever is decided. And the ignorance of quite the majority of the people of Israel, of the citizens of Israel, is something we should correct.
Yaakov, why is that true? Why do you think it is that something that seems so obvious to you and obvious to me as an American Jew, although I bring a slightly different perspective because I'm meeting with people like you all the time, but why wasn't it taken for granted, do you think, in Israel?
Because we wanted to follow the Western world. We want to be more Americans, Europeans than Middle Eastern.
Is that a mistake?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a mistake, but that's the reason.
I understand.
We wanted to be more Americans. We wanted to be more Western. We want to be. Middle Eastern seems to be too primitive, too ignorance, and we wanted to be part of the whole world. So Israel succeeded in many ways, and we have to admit that Israel is a miracle. But from the other side, we are too ignorant in what's going on in our area. And that's the area that is our homeland. So we have to be much more knowledgeable.
So you do learn, and you end up with what is an unusual and somewhat unique, not that you're the only one, but you're among those who have now learned Arabic well and Arabic culture. Do you know Mordechai Kedar?
Yes, I know Mordechai Kedar from the Bar Ilan University.
It's
a very famous expert.
Yes.
In Middle Eastern. Yeah.
And he's explained to me much of what you've explained.
Yeah.
And again, it's a pity. It seems as if Israel is moving towards correcting that. Are you comfortable yet, or you feel?
I'm not yet comfortable, but we are on the way.
Okay.
We are on the way. A lot to be done, but things are going to be better. I hope that the younger generation will correct it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you graduate Hebrew University.
Yeah.
And you use. Are you recruited by Shabak? Or okay. Yeah. Because they know of your Arabic knowledge and right. So and are you happy to join Shabak?
We missed one point that I have to go back. I was found as a very talented musician. And from the age of 6, I learned and played the trumpet. And my family's dream and my dream was to be a professional musician. Ah. And I was granted a scholarship in Juilliard.
Wow.
But the means of my family were very poor, and I was learning on a scholarship of the American Israel cultural foundation. And then when I went to university, my dream was to study university and then to go to New York and to study in Juilliard. So this chapter we should add.
Please.
Now,
Yes.
I'm very, very, very happy of my career.
Okay, but just a minute.
I'm not
Just a
regretting.
minute,
I'm
just a
not
minute.
regretting
I
at all.
understand. I understand. It's a lovely story. So here you are, a talented musician.
Yeah.
If you'd had the financial means, you probably would have come to America and studied at Juilliard.
Yeah, and I would become a professional musician.
And your whole life would have been
Was-
different.
Of course.
Do you realize?
Yeah.
how
and
life
I
works?
keep thinking of it almost every minute when I was in the service, and I was welcomed very, very, in very intimate places by the heads of the CIA and MI5, etc. Whenever I came to Washington, I was asked, Mr. Peri, what would you like to do in the evening after we have the, the official dinner? I would say, take me to a nice jazz club. And I used to sit listening, and I was thinking, well, instead of being here as a guest of the head of the CIA or the FBI or whatever, or statesmen, maybe I would have been the musician that is playing in this club or another clubs. But I am not regretting. I had a
I understand.
tremendous career.
I understand.
and-
But wait, who are the musicians whom you enjoy the most? You respect
Well,
them?
Louis Armstrong,
Yes.
Dizzy Gillespie, and of course, I mean,
All the greats.
all the greats, yeah.
Okay. You give me chills, and I believe had life gone in a different way,
Completely.
as you became as successful in one field, you would have been successful, and I would have had you at this table. We would have been having a
Even
different
if I've been
conversation.
a
Absolutely,
Jewish musician.
Absolutely, a different conversation, but I would enjoy it just as much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now Shabbat comes and says, "We need you."
Yeah.
Okay, and at that point, do you understand what you're getting into?
Not really.
Isn't that honest?
Not really. I think that you haven't got another, I mean, things have changed. In 1966, when I was recruited,
Before the 6-Day War.
yeah, things were a little bit different. Now everything is open. Not
How
everything.
were they different?
It was a clandestine organization. Nobody really knew what is the tasks. And the tasks have changed after the 6-Day War, after 1967. The fight against this Palestinian terrorism was completely another story. We hadn't got it before 1967. Not in that waves and not in that spectrum. So I really didn't know what I'm going in, but I knew that it's very important because one of my father's uncles were in a big job in the defense ministry. And he told me, you are going to a very, very important, sacred mission, and you'll like it. And I was hooked.
When you enter the Shin Bet, you're roughly how old?
23.
How would you self-identify yourself as you look back at it? And I want to know whether you self-identify differently now. By self-identify, I mean, did you see yourself on the left side of the Israeli spectrum, on the right side of the Israeli spectrum, in the center? Where were you as a young person? Where are you now?
I wasn't at that time aware of
Politics at all?
politics at all. It didn't interest me. And I was hooked in studies and music and, social life. Now I'm more in the center.
You're in the center. Okay.
Some ideas of mine are center left.
Okay. You join Shabbat. You're working there for a while, and obviously you have a career, blah, blah, blah. There's another director. As I read your biography, you move up slowly. It's not one day you become the director.
I started from an archive worker, and I
Kept moving up.
kept.
Okay. Then in 1988, correct?
Yeah, I was appointed
Okay.
to be.
Now, you follow Avraham Shalom.
Yeah.
Okay. And Avraham Shalom was director for a number of years, and then he was forced to resign. And some of our viewers may know the story, some may not. It's in Gatekeepers, but ultimately there is a very dramatic incident with a bus that is hijacked out of Tel Aviv. There are 4 Palestinian terrorists. Ultimately, they're all killed. And the question is, were they killed in an inappropriate way? Wait a minute. I don't want to hear your answer yet. I want to set up the story. Then I want to hear your answer.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And this is so interesting because the film does a hatchet job. What it basically says is that the Shin Bet, there's a question, interrogation, blah, blah, blah. 2 may have been killed trying to resist capture at the actual time that the bus is freed. But then there are 2 who are taken into captivity, they're taken prisoner, and they die. And the charge is that the Shin Bet basically, even Avraham Shalom, beats one of them with his gun to death, and that they're both, in essence, executed outside of the law. And there's question to Shamir, who was prime minister at the time, did he order this? Shamir says he does not. But this ends Avraham Shalom's career, and he ultimately gets pardoned by Yitzhak Shamir.
No, by the president.
By the president.
Herzog.
Okay.
President Herzog.
My question for you now is, this is the story as we hear it and see it in Gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Do you have any different version?
No. No.
This was basically the story.
It wasn't right to kill them. It wasn't. They made it without an authority. They were captured. They surrounded, and we are not killing prisoners. And the fault wasn't only the fact that Shabak people killed them. They were hiding the whole story, the cover-ups. That was the issue.
Yes.
And President Herzog thought that it's for the benefit of this organization not to verdict, not to indict those responsible.
Or go public, really.
Or go public. It was a big scandal in Israel.
Now here I can say to you, you remember this time.
Of course.
Okay. What were you feeling? What were you thinking?
Well, I thought that we didn't make, the organization didn't act as we should act.
You were critical.
Yeah, very critical.
Okay.
And I wasn't put in the secret of the things because some of the responsibles that got pardoned were my best friends. And I wasn't put in the...
they didn't tell you.
When I asked why, they said we wanted to guard you. We wanted to protect you. If it's right or not right, I cannot really tell you.
Were
but
you angry?
Were
you angry that you were not told?
No, I was angry of
what they did.
And it turned out that I became the deputy of Yosef Hamelin, who brought back from outside to be an acting member or head of the director of the Shabak, and he recommended to Yitzhak Shamir to appoint me, and the rest is history.
Okay, so in 1988 you become director.
Director, yeah.
I started by saying, you know, there's a tone to you, even as we talk. You are so lovely. It's not what one imagines. And the reason I say this is, it sounds as if you're the head of
such an organization.
Yes, you have to be hard.
I have been hard and very determined when I made my job. Not cruel, and I didn't educate to hate Arabs. It's a mistake. We have to do our job against terrorists, spies, you name it. who wants to undermine the existence of Israel. But it will be a mistake to act under revenge or hatred.
That is beautifully said. And, just as we said, it's sort of axiomatic that Israelis should be learning Arabic. It's axiomatic what you're saying.
Absolutely.
For all Jews, for American Jews, for Israeli. Yes. Understand, there's no point in hating. And incidentally,
no, it's a mistake.
Yes, I meet Israelis all the time, and I say to them, "Do you hate Palestinians?" They say, "No."
No.
That's not the Israeli mentality.
Absolutely.
Are there Israelis who hate? Yes, but in general, it's not the Israeli mentality.
No, we shouldn't hate and we shouldn't revenge.
Okay. Now you are head of Shabak during the First Intifada.
Yeah.
This is slightly after the Palestinian Liberation Organization was founded in 1963-64. The Six-Day War is in 67. Most American Jews assume the PLO was created after the Six-Day War as Palestine Liberation. I'm sorry, Palestinian Liberation. It's not Palestinian. It's Palestine. And the Palestine they mean is Haifa and Tel Aviv
and Ramle and Jaffa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everywhere that you were as a kid. Okay. But now you're the head of Shabak during the Intifada. What are the challenges you face, and what were the most frustrating parts of your job?
First of all, it was a street mutiny. It wasn't pushed by this or the terrorist organization. It was an uprising of the street, and to fight it, to control it, was almost an impossible mission. Secondly, the first time that the Palestinian public or a citizen said, "Well, we don't want you here. Go out. It's not your land. We don't want to be under your regime, even if you are a liberal regime, so-called." So we found ourselves in a situation that I don't think that any army or military or intelligence organization found himself all over the world. So we have to invent methods and tools how to fight it. Youngsters, children of the age of 11 or 12, throw stones at Israeli tanks or Israeli armored vehicles. And it would have been a mistake to shoot at them. We had to stop them. So we had to use all kinds of intelligence tools and methods invented by us. Later, the whole world came to learn how to control such an uprising. And we were stabbed, and Molotov cocktails and demonstrations and roadblocks in masses of Palestinian revolters. And it was a huge challenge because there was a debate in Israel. Who didn't expect the uprising? Why did it came without I would say knowing it before? So it was quite a...
Was that an intelligence failure in Israel?
In a way. But you cannot expect such occurrences. What intelligence service expected the fall of the Berlin Wall? I mean, it's quite problematic, but to say the truth, it's an intelligent failure.
Yes.
Because when something happens and you haven't got a signal before, you have to ask yourself, where did you go wrong?
Yes. Yeah. To take a half step back, we're going to right here.
Please.
Half step back. You're in Shabak in 1973.
Yeah.
Was that an intelligence failure, the Yom Kippur War?
Yeah. The answer is yes. Because the Israeli intelligence got information that the Egyptian army is going and the Syrian army, etc. and we didn't take the exact steps needed to stop it or to prevent it. And it's yes, it's an intelligence failure, no doubt.
You know, there are those who argue that Israel did know, but that Golda Meir made a conscious decision because doing a call-up is terribly expensive, and she just did one not too long before, and that therefore it was a conscious decision of the government.
I think that it was more an intelligence failure than a political failure. Because if the intelligence organization are coming to the government, putting on the table facts and assessment, the government usually goes with it, works with it.
Okay.
At this point, the Mossad, who got what we are calling the golden information, didn't say, I wasn't insisting enough that that's true, that's going to happen. I think that Golda Meir, being an excellent prime minister at that time, didn't get the right information and the determined information. But she paid the price, and all those who were responsible paid the price. And Am Israel paid the price.
Yes.
The people of Israel paid the price. Lots of casualties and a tragic war. Yeah.
And you just mentioned Mossad, which we have not yet mentioned in our discussion. For our audience, explain the relationship and the difference between Mossad and Shin Bet.
The intelligence community of Israel is composed from three main organizations. Some are saying 4 or 5, I'll tell you the main three. Mossad is working outside the border of Israel, collecting intelligence, not inside. Shabak is an internal intelligence force and collecting the intelligence against terrorism, espionage, etc., inside Israel. And the third organization is the army intelligence attached to the IDF. There are some research organizations also in the police, the Israeli police and the Israeli Foreign Office, and they are part of the intelligence community, but not the main parts.
Oh, okay, very helpful to us. So what you said was that the Intifada was sort of an organic uprising from within the people.
Spontaneously.
Okay. You know, that's not the way it's portrayed in the American Jewish history. It's suggested that this is an orchestrated, political, organizational move by Arafat and the PLO.
So that's a mistake because the PLO, Arafat, and others joined the spontaneous uprising after it occurred.
What caused it then?
I think
Why one day there is no Intifada and the next day there is?
Because the Palestinian society built all kinds of cells, let's call it like that, organizations,
Cells.
small organizations. And because of their unwilling to be under an Israeli, what we call occupation, some will call it liberation, doesn't matter. And the situation or the street boiled. And the uprising came because of an accident, a car accident in the Gaza Strip. And the whole street
Just exploded.
The PLO took advantage of this explosion and then came, but it wasn't initiated by him.
Very interesting. And we're going to I want to come back to that in the context of the second Intifada in a moment. Mm-hmm. But you are leading Shabak during this first Intifada.
Right.
And what you're saying is you had to learn sort of on the job.
Yeah. We were like a blind man in a room that he didn't know before.
So do you ever begin to gain sight?
Yeah, I think it took us something like a couple of months to organize ourselves and to know how to deal with it, but it was quite complicated.
And to the extent to which you can, what are the types of things you're trying to do or prevent? What's Shabak's job at that point?
Shabak has to control the population that is under Shabak's or Israel inspection. At that point, it was the Palestinian citizens in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, and the Gaza Strip. And the Shabak has to bring the army, the government, the intelligence needed. Tomorrow there is going to be a demonstration here and there. After tomorrow, it will be a attempt to stab soldiers. And
your job is to give information.
yeah, of course.
Do
and
you
to assess it.
Do you have operatives on the ground as well?
Of course. Yeah.
Who are trying to prevent?
Of course. We have our own forces.
Yes.
But the main forces were army and police.
Okay. You were never part of the forces, were you? You
We
were always in intelligence.
We are intelligence,
No,
but
you personally.
personally I came to those operations that were very sensitive. And there I was also on the ground.
You were also on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, this is slightly off the sequence.
Yeah.
But you know there is a very, very popular Israeli television series,
Yeah.
which has also become very popular in
Yeah.
America,
Yeah.
Fauda. And Fauda really is talking about
These guys.
what's being done on the West Bank.
Yeah.
So that's not Shabak.
It is, yeah, I mean, it is, the intelligence is Shabak intelligence. The operators are army soldiers, that case.
Are you familiar with the TV series?
Of course.
To what extent is it real?
70-74%.
It's more real than not real.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Incidentally, in some way, especially season 1, seemed to show the Palestinians as real people, as human beings with their own celebrations and their own fears.
Emotions.
And it may be that still we wish they would not be crazy about killing Jews,
Yeah.
but that even in the context of there's certainly the enemy, and I don't think there was any question that in the context of the series, Israel was the good guy. I've had members of Fauda sit at this table and tell me, no, there was no good guy, no bad guy. That's ridiculous. Israel is the good guy. But even when Israel is the good guy in Fauda, there's an empathy for the Palestinian. Do you think I'm saying I'm
rightly
correct?
so. You are absolutely correct. Look, when you are making a Hollywood or your film, you have to put inside romance and things like that, which are not really the reality. But yes, Israel is still the good guy, and the Palestinians are human with feelings, with emotions, with holidays, with, and not all the Palestinians are hating Jews. Some of them want us, not some of them, the majority wants us out of the territory.
That's the tragedy.
Yeah, that's the tragedy. But I think the series is, quite realistic.
Okay. So lo and behold, Oslo is in 1993.
93,
You're still director.
of course.
Then you resign in 1995.
I didn't. I left my job because after 7 years in the job, it was enough.
Enough's enough. Okay, but I'm asking you, and maybe there was absolutely no connection.
Mm-hmm.
Are you pleased with where Oslo seems to be going?
No.
Tell us why.
I was one of the believers that that's the right way to start a kind of a solution, because of the fact that it was gradually. It had some steps, and if we
Oslo, the Oslo process.
Yeah. But it didn't went as planned, not by us and not by the Palestinians. I mean, you can put the blame on two sides, but no doubt that
What's our blame? What's the Israeli blame?
we didn't follow the plan. I mean, there we were lots of people who were against it. They thought that we shouldn't do it as planned,
They were worried about the process as it was defined.
Yeah. And the Palestinians, as always, they didn't miss an opportunity. So it wasn't go. It went as it should. And then came the Rabin assassination. And
Okay, but Rabin assassination in 1995.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's around the time you retire. Are you still
I
director?
retired 9 months before the Rabin's assassination.
As you look at the Rabin assassination, was that an intelligence failure?
Yeah, it was the Shabak's failure. It was the fact that his bodyguards weren't looking at the crowd, they were looking at him because of the euphoria that this gathering made in Israel, and it was a security failure, no doubt.
Did you feel personally responsible in any way?
Look, in a way, you cannot, after 9 months, it was quite fresh. I felt that the spy organization didn't fulfill his task, yeah. And of course, I was a personal friend of Yitzhak Rabin. And it was,
you knew him?
Yeah, very well.
You liked him?
Very much. I came very closer to the prime minister that I worked under.
Yes.
Because you are very, the meetings are very intensive on almost a daily basis.
Did you see eye to eye? Did you agree with him in most ways?
With Rabin, 95, 96%, yes. I didn't like the way that he spoke to the settlers and things like that. I looked at them as pioneers, and which Israel made the mistake, not they made the mistake, but leave it aside. But I liked Rabin. I liked his behavior. I liked his shyness. I liked his hesitations. And there were two different characters. Yitzhak Shamir was an underground, tough guy, believing in the fact that Samaria is the part of Israel by biblical heritage, and Rabin was much more opener, elastic, much more a liberal left side, which brought to the table sometimes too, I would say, leftist. But
I'm going to say too idealistic.
Idealistic, you may say. But I liked Rabin.
Okay. I have heard two versions. I want to hear yours.
Please.
One, Yitzhak Rabin never saw the handshake coming. He did not realize there would be a handshake, and it was a very hard thing for him to do. As far as you know, true or not true?
Partly true. He knew that if there will be any contract or agreement, he will have to shake.
In public?
Yeah, in public. But it was hard.
It was hard?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was hard. It was hard. I was going to Arafat on a weekly basis to his home in Gaza.
Wait a minute. You knew Arafat?
Personally.
You knew Arafat?
Of course. Sent
what
by
do you mean,
Yitzhak Rabin.
What? By the way, how does the head of Shabak know Arafat?
Because, look, Arafat he was appointed to be president of the Palestinian Authority. And as such, I had to meet him, and I had to, I was a kind of a personal messenger of Yitzhak Rabin to Arafat. Let's phrase it like that.
Were you part of the Oslo process even before?
No.
That was Yossi Balin. That wasn't you.
I was informed in the nights by Peres' assistants what's going on. So I wasn't in the darkness. And I was aware of the fact that they are going to sign.
Were you optimistic at that point, or was it upsetting?
More optimistic than I am now, for sure,
okay.
for sure.
We all were, by the way.
Of course. There were, the 1950s, I would say, 1994, 1995,
The middle 90s.
there was an atmosphere of hope.
Yes.
Hope, optimism.
Okay. Did you like Arafat?
No,
Okay.
no,
Did you trust Arafat?
no.
Okay. You said that after Oslo was signed, there were failures on both parts.
No
So
doubt.
I asked you first the Israeli failure. Many people argue that Arafat never intended, this was a Hudaybiyah,
They are right.
and that ultimately Arafat was going to torpedo this.
No, no. They are right. There are those who are saying that Arafat never was a real partner for any kind of settlement. They are right.
They are right.
Yeah. Arafat wanted to be the first Palestinian president, but not the first Arab leader that is signing, Arab leader or Palestinian leader who are signing a peace treaty with Israel. He said, I brought the Palestinian issue up to the world. And I want to stay in that position, not at the position that surrounded or gave up territories or whatever. And it is right. Abu Mazen is not like Arafat.
We'll come to that.
Yeah,
Hold
but
on.
he would sign of
Okay,
this.
okay. And our understanding is that Arafat is behind the second Intifada in an attempt to torpedo Oslo. True or false?
That's not accurate. It's
What's
not accurate.
accurate?
It was.
Tell me about the second
The
Intifada.
second Intifada was an occurrences of, first of all, it was operated by the second generation to the Israeli stay in territories. I mean, it wasn't, the first Intifada was done, but those who were not really yet educated or run by the Israeli occupation. Second Intifada was another story. People who were educated in Palestinian universities outside Palestine were aware of the Israeli behavior, the Israeli emotions, the Israeli
But you're
crisis.
saying it is also a popular uprising.
Not as the first Intifada.
Was it
more-
organized?
Yeah, more.
By whom?
Terrorist organizations.
But
of-
not Arafat?
Yeah, Fatah. Yeah, they
So-
armed.
Okay,
the
so
armed-
why isn't what I said true? Namely, that Arafat torpedoes Oslo by a second Intifada.
Because I didn't think, I'm not thinking that was Arafat's or the Fatah organization's aim.
Goal. It wasn't
Goal.
their goal.
Yeah.
It
The
may have
goal was-
torpedoed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you
absolutely.
see, if you said a moment ago, you do not feel Arafat ever was serious about
He wasn't serious because it wasn't. He thought or felt that surrounding to the Israeli plans or programs or whatever will be a Palestinian mistake. He thought that he will get more support from the Arab world, and he didn't get. The Arab world, the majority of the Arab world, didn't hated Arafat sometimes more than the Israelis. And he felt in a way that from one side he pushed the Palestinian issue to the worldwide, from the otherwise he's alone. So he said, I'll not sign on a peace treaty or a contract with Israel. Let my predecessors do it, if at all.
successors.
Successors.
Yes. All right. It's a little complicated because you're telling me he did not want Oslo to go forward, and yet he was and he did participate in the second Intifada, but you're not sure that
That was his
destroying
aim.
Oslo
Yeah,
was the goal.
yeah, absolutely.
It was a larger goal.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But it had the effect of torpedoing.
Yeah,
Oslo was then dead.
You can look at it in this way. I'm not sure that that is truth.
Okay.
Really.
I want to ask you one more question about the way in which Israel deals with the terrorist threat, because as head of Shabak, it's something you dealt with all the time. One thing is, in the early years of after 67, there were no checkpoints.
No.
Checkpoints came only once there were terrorist activities where bombs and explosives and other weapons were coming across the border.
Yeah.
And then that provoked the checkpoints.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was no wall separating Israel from the West Bank.
Yeah.
It was also created
because
in response to the Second Intifada, where it was just a horrific time for Israeli families.
True.
Where are you living, by the way, at this point in the story? Second Intifada, where are you living?
In Jerusalem.
So you're in Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem.
It's a different experience than when you were a child.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what's your message to American Jews and Americans in general about how they should understand the necessity of checkpoints and the wall, as opposed to the way it's portrayed by Palestinians? This is brutalization of the Palestinians.
A very simple message. We are fighting for our lives. We are fighting in order to protect our families, children, army soldiers, settlers, you name it. And we failed, Israel failed, and the Palestinians failed, to come to a kind of a settlement or an agreement or a peace treaty or an independent state, you name it. We have to use every possible tool in order to prevent or to minimize terrorist activity. You cannot eliminate terror. You cannot eliminate an ideological way or trend or organization or whatever. You can minimize the activity, and that's what Shabak is doing, and the army, and the state of Israel, and police, etc. Now, using checkpoints, building a wall that prevents terrorists to cross, helps to minimize terrorist activity. So our brothers outside Israel should understand it. It's not a political mean. It's an operational mean. It's an intelligence tool. I hope that with God's help, peace will prevail in our region. We will not have to use checkpoints and walls and arrests and prisons.
They all come down.
Yeah, they all come down.
But
at the time,
hope.
Yeah, for the time being, everybody should understand it and support it.
What do you say to those, especially on American college campuses, who are advocating BDS, who are sympathetic to SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine, who say the checkpoints and the wall and Israeli occupation is a form of chosen Israeli brutality, that it's not, none of this is necessary, and that if Israel were to be an ethical country, it would end the occupation, it would take down the checkpoints, it would take down the wall. What would you say to those students?
I invite them to join me to a tour, guided tour by me. And after they will see, hear, speak to victims, to people who are living there, to Israelis that lost their families, children, etc., I am sure that they will change their declarations.
It's ignorance?
Yeah.
It's ignorance.
It's ignorance. It's not going into details. It's
sound
reading,
bites, right?
reading the headlines,
yes,
and nobody follows what's in the article or what. So it's a mistake.
Okay. And when you look at the ethic of the IDF, and I'll give you an example that comes out of what we've been discussing.
Yeah.
I remember vividly when Rabin is dealing with the Intifada, and the question is, does he use rubber bullets?
Yeah.
And there are those in America who were horrified that he used the rubber bullets in the Intifada. And you said you got kids throwing stones at tanks. It doesn't sound like it's a problem. Live with the attitude in America is, so kids are throwing stones at tanks?
Mark, this is naivety. This is sitting in the United States or in Paris or in London and looking at what the occurrences in the West Bank or in Gaza and giving aids. They are giving, they are trying to give us a kind of a feel that we are murderers, peace refusers, conquerors, etc., which is totally not true. I think that the Israeli army, the Israeli police, are one of the most liberal and patient forces ever operated in such occurrences. There are mistakes. There are things that shouldn't be done. We have talked about the bus 300. No, that's not the way. Cover-up is not the way. Sometimes soldiers are using brutality and they have to be punished for it. So don't take 3, 4, 5, or 6 cases and put it on a whole country or a whole organization. I'm not saying that Israel should have not been more initiative in trying to settle the things, but that's another story.
Okay. What the movie says is that every one of the directors of Shin Bet, when they leave, they become more liberal. Is that true?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you can see, you can feel the suffering of people that you are arresting them, though they are terrorists. But coming in the night to a Palestinian family, you can see the children, the wife, people that are not participating in terror. And they, you are getting out to say, well, we have to find a solution to this problem. They are human beings. We are human beings. We want to live in a peace and in tranquility, and they want the same. The majority.
No, they don't.
No. So.
No, they don't.
No.
And you've already told me.
I don't know.
It's a tragedy, but they don't.
No. The leaders. There is a difference between the public and the society.
Your words,
and your
the majority of Palestinians don't want us here.
No, they don't want us here.
That majority.
Yeah, so
it's
we have
not
to find.
Just the leaders.
So, Mark, we have to find a solution. We have to find a way how to separate. We have to find a way for a decent divorce.
Okay. Anyway, were you more left when you left than when you came in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is you were more empathetic, really.
Yeah.
That's what's meant.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it didn't sound to me like you wanted different policies. You just had a deeper appreciation for the human complexity here.
For one way, but I understood that the separation solution is a must. It's an Israeli interest.
Okay.
And we have to fight for it.
Okay.
We have to.
So you're here representing the new state solution. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you my perspective, and I want you to tell me. It's not about whether I'm wrong. I want you to tell me how you would answer it.
Okay.
Okay. I heard from you many times. Israel failed and the Palestinians failed.
Right.
I'm sorry?
Right.
Yeah. And my reaction is, do I think everything Israel has done is right? No, of course. Nobody's always right. However, I don't believe, Yaakov, there's anything Israel could have said, or more important, done or given. Nothing that you could have done, said, or given would have changed the leadership position in the Palestinian world. The Palestinian leadership is not about give me. The Palestinian leadership is pick up your bags, pack, turn out the lights, get on a plane, and leave. You don't belong here because you, your father, your mother stole my land. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it's not about accommodation. It's not about separation. Separation implies you're going to stay. Oh, no, you're not. The leadership says to you, Israel doesn't matter what you give me 95% of the West Bank, 98% of the West Bank, doesn't matter whether you're Barak, doesn't matter whether you're Omer, forget it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether you're Oslo. The reality is, as painful as this is, human beings who have feelings and families and lives and marriages and weddings and celebrations are led by an ideology that says the Jew has no right to be anywhere in this land. And since 1936 and 37, the Jewish position has been, we will share the land. It was in 37, it was in 47, it was in 40, it was in 40, sorry, 47, it was 40, 49, it was in 67 at Khartoum, and the answer has always been, you want to share the land? Over my dead body. So you tell me now, why is it Israel's fault at all? And tell me, how does the new state solution deal with the real issue?
I'll do it shortly. First of all, I hear you. And I respect your position. But let me tell you, in some aspects you are wrong. I mean, there is no doubt that for years the Arabs, the Palestinians, wanted us out in the sea. and it's not something new, though there is a slight change lately, because we are sharing with the biggest Arab countries interests like the anti-Iranian one, the fight against the radical Islam, etc. But I'm not going to go into details because of the shortage of time. New state solution gives the Palestinian their state in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip and Sinai is an Egyptian ex-land. The humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip is awful. We are going to ask from the Egyptians, lease us 10% of the Sinai. Instead of having 60,000 square kilometers, we will lease from you 6,000. We will widen the Gaza Strip, and we will build there a Palestinian entity. We will build or help to build them water, electricity, power stations, airport, you name it. And we are not forcing any Palestinians from the West Bank to immigrate. Those who will voluntarily want to live in their own entity, welcome. If not, we will have to find a solution or to stay in the same position within the West Bank, and I'm not adding any comment about Jerusalem. Jerusalem will stay united. Now, from a demographic point of view, from a political point of view, from a world image point of view, a separation is a must. We cannot stay on our sword or live on our swords forever. And the solution of one state solution is, as Meir extending, the end of Zionism. So we have to be creative. And Israel is the strongest force in the area, and we will stay the stronger force in the area. So we have to initiate, we will have to compromise, and I hope that in 2 months we will hear what's Trump's deal of the century. Personally, I'm not putting any, I wouldn't put any money on the edges, but Israel will have to find a solution to this problem, because we have some partners even in the other side.
Yaakov, my understanding is that in the new state solution, the Palestinians do not have the West Bank.
Yeah, no.
Correct?
No, yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm going to say to you,
They will not accept it.
in a million years right now.
I know. I'm sure.
Okay, as long as you know, as long as you know, your plan will not be accepted.
I know by the Palestinians. Absolutely.
Well, if they don't accept it, what's the point?
Because we have to start and give them other alternatives. So I accept the fact that Palestinians will not accept it, but they cannot resist or reject a revival or I would say, something that will give Gaza, because let me tell you that no any Israeli government, will it be a right government, a left government, a center government, will let a free passage between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. So let's find first a solution to Gaza, and it can work. It was a pleasure, Mark.
Oh, I adore you. I adore you. This is, I've wanted to meet you, and lo and behold, sometimes you want to meet somebody, it's not as good.
Yeah.
It's better.
Thank you very much, Mark.
You are a sweetheart. You have to, we're only stopping because of the clock.
Okay.
Okay, you have to say you'll come back.
I'll come.
Kol
Sure.
tuv v'hatzlacha in
Toda
all
rabba.
you do.
Toda rabba, Mark.
Nifla mod. Yaakov Peri, a former director of the Shin Bet, who now advocates for the new state solution, is here in America, courtesy of the Miriam Institute.org. And as you can tell, he is a thoughtful, lovely individual, and he represents the best of what we are and what the state of Israel is. As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have to any of the ideas expressed by Yaakov Peri on this edition of L'Chaim. Please email me, write me, post on our Facebook page, or tweet me. I look forward to hearing from many of you. And remember, you can now listen to the L'Chaim podcast. Go to iTunes or Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and take L'Chaim with you wherever you go. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. L'Chaim, my friends, to life.
L'Chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more. Simply visit the JBS website at jbstv.org and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please, indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check to JBS, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.